My America is epitomized by the ice cream social on Kiawah Island. The island is a saltwater marsh south of Charleston, South Carolina. It's part gated community, part holiday camp. It's huge and beautiful, and in the evening, as the sun fades and storms add even more moisture to the already steamy heat, the entertainers thrill the kids with magic tricks and silly songs. I went many times with my own children when they were young, and I was always struck by the way the entertainment began. A simple question, "Where are y'all from?" And the parents would shout out, "Texas, Iowa, Virginia, New Jersey," and shout those names with pride and with a sense of belonging. American patriotism is rooted in a deep attachment to place, to community, to fellowship. When people write books about the Trump presidency, they often paint this president as uniquely awful. This is the true horror of the current American moment. The fellowship is gone. I haven't been to Kiawah for a decade. I was Washington-based for the BBC for 8 years. When they hold the ice cream social now, do people boo when someone comes from a Trump state like Oklahoma? Or perhaps more likely, Kiawah has a big golfing thing going on. Do they boo anti-Trump California? Or do people who come from the big cities fail to cheer for their state because they feel out of place in it, and vice versa? It's heartbreaking. But it is not the end of America's story. When people write apocalyptic books about the Trump presidency, the latest from The Big Short author Michael Lewis is out soon, they often paint this president as uniquely awful and America's current crisis as uniquely damaging and insoluble. It's a view, but plenty of Americans will say, he isn't. And it isn't either. Nixon was a drunk who hit his wife and tried to use tactical nuclear weapons, held back by the good sense of the generals and of Henry Kissinger. Other presidents have been incapable if not unhinged. Reagan's people seriously considered using the 25th Amendment of the Constitution to remove him from office. The amendment allows the vice president and cabinet to force him out, and only changed their minds when Reagan seemed cogent at a specially arranged lunch. We know what Bill Clinton did, and may have done before he took power. Zoom out. Let us take a step back to a place, let's say outer space, from where the craziness unfolding in America can be seen in proper perspective. Never mind that the president is saying things that seem to make no sense, or that his latest Supreme Court nominee has blown up so spectacularly. Over the next few years, clever Americans who think about these things are going to come to a single conclusion. They will step back from that day-to-day freak show, and focus on the bigger picture. The Constitution does not work. The reason why Trump was elected and remains decently popular is that all the levers of government seem broken. Perhaps then, a giant clear-out is on the way, a fever is about to break. The last time more than half of Americans voted in a midterm election was in 1912. If the Trump midterm beats that record, hey, it's a start. I am no constitutional scholar, but just indulge me with one observation about how broken the U.S. system of government has become. Take the Supreme Court, over which there is so much anguish and bitterness as the Brett Kavanaugh nomination totters. A system where the Supreme Court actually makes the laws that matter hugely to many Americans is just downright unworkable. Remember, the rights of gay people to get married across America are wholly due to the Supreme Court. No congressional vote was taken among democratically elected representatives. The same is true of affirmative action to combat racism, environmental law too, internet regulation, and of course most famously of all, abortion. These decisions are taken by 9 justices appointed for life. Symbolism. So never mind the fate of Brett Kavanaugh. Look at the reason why he is important. No, not just important, supremely positioned to chart America's course over the next few decades. The Supreme Court is a disaster, and increasingly unpopular, because it is remote yet staggeringly powerful. I know Americans who voted twice for Barack Obama and then in 2016 for Donald Trump. They did so not because they suddenly embraced racism, or sexism, or wanted to cozy up to Russia and Saudi Arabia. They wanted the levers of democracy to work again. They wanted their voices heard. American patriotism is rooted in a deep attachment to place, to community, to fellowship. I know he is a less than perfect president and a highly imperfect reflection of the kind of lifestyles most of his supporters enjoy or endure. But the scream that is Trump has got to be heard. It is not about individual policies, it is about the system. Amidst all the fuss about the midterm polls coming up in November, here is one jaw-dropping fact. The last time more than half of Americans voted in a midterm election was in 1912. If the Trump midterm beats that record, hey, it's a start. He won't like it or understand it, but that America can use the Donald before it discards him. At Justin on Web Traveling, we are on the move on the Today program. In years gone by we only went out into the nation on special occasions, usually elections. Now with the technology easier to transport and set up and an editor who values intelligent discussion over the Westminster Jamboree, we are much more mobile, and this week I have been in Newcastle to present a live morning from the university. On the way back from Newcastle, our train was delayed by a person hit by a train at Chesterless Street, a morning of celebrating the hopes of 18-year-olds, and wondering whether they are really getting value for money, punctuated by an event that brings home the grim fact, we don't know how life will turn out. If you get the chance to have some fun at an early age, to learn to read clever things and eat spaghetti hoops with your mates, seize it. Tomorrow may be much sadder than today. Reading, I have decided to stop reading nonfiction and go back to the novels I used to love. I stopped a decade ago when my mother died. I don't really know why. Something in me changed. I didn't want the exploration of personal vulnerability that great fiction provides. Now I am ready to jump back on the horse, and I am starting with the great and rather neglected set of comic novels A Dance to the Music of Time by Anthony Powell. They are a take on the vicissitudes of life from the perspective of the posh classes in a forgotten England. When I was a kid they were on the wireless. No one would commission them now. I am reading to keep their flame burning. We have discovered our fire pit. Since an early effort with it resulted in tiny but catastrophic holes being burned in the covers of some garden seats, I have rather hated the damned thing and stuck it at the end of the garden in disgrace. But teenagers just love little community a fire can instantly create. And smokeless coal works a treat too. The garden furniture is safe. At the weekend, at least until it gets properly cold, that's where our family, and various friends, can be found. Wringing the last heat out of this amazing summer. More on Donald Trump.